Welcome to Spiritually United Paradox, literally language of the heart speaker gathering. All our speakers are shared on our WhatsApp audio groups and our speaker channels. The links will be dropped in the chat. If you're listening to this recording and need help, we have a way that works. Please reach out and send us an email at connect@sipx.world and the crew will reach out and get back to you. First up, we read a section of the Big Book. Week to week, we go from the Doctor's Opinion to page 1 to 164. And today we're continuing with XXVi, the Doctor's Opinion. And we invited CATHY Mc E from Florida to share a message of depth and weight and the passage of the Big Book. Over to you, CATHY.
Here I am.
There we go.
Thank you, Everly. Thank you, Joey. My name is Kathy, and I am an alcoholic. Thank you for the invitation for this wonderful group. It's great to see some my friends and people I haven't met before. I was really struck. I'm an alcoholic and an addict, and I was really struck whenever you called out at the start, for anyone listening to this recording and needing help, and how important that is because these recordings are so valuable. The amount of people that I listened to when I was new, when we didn't have this online platform and I didn't have a way of contact. So thank you for that. And yes, so today we have this lovely passage on the doctor's opinion on page XXVi. It reads, frothy emotional appeal seldom suffices. The message which can interest and hold these alcoholic people must have depth and weight. In nearly all cases, their ideals must be grounded in a power greater than themselves if they are to recreate their lives. If any feel that as psychiatrists directing a hospital for alcoholics, we appear somewhat sentimental, let them stand with us a while on the firing line, see the tragedy, the spurring wives, the little children. Let the solving of these problems become a part of their daily work and even of their sleeping moments. And the most cynical will not wonder that we have accepted and encouraged this movement. We feel, after many years of experience, that we have found nothing which has contributed more to the rehabilitation of these men than the altruistic movement now growing up among them. And what a beautiful passage. And my sobriety date is March 13th, 2016. Just get the stats out of the way. My home group is the Big Book Comes Alive Step Study Workshop online. I have a sponsor and I work with others and a couple of things come to mind when I read these paragraphs. First is how I never thought that I hurted anyone with my drinking. And second of all, how my family and my sister cried out to me to stop drinking. And none of that works. Um, and This frothy emotional appeal, my mother used to like tell me that, I need to go and get myself sorted. I need to stop drinking. Don't you see what you're doing? My sister told me to come to Alcoholics Anonymous. That's how I got to the rooms at 22. She said, I heard about your drinking. And I came for a while and excuse me. And that wasn't my first sobriety date. Actually, for 4 years, I came in and out of Alcoholics Anonymous because I was doing things like just going to meetings, picking and choosing what I would do. And quite frankly, I did not know what I suffered from. And this movement that we have, CAA, all the A's, if you want to call it, this selfless movement. Um, Gosh, I am so grateful for it. When I came in, like I mentioned, I did not understand what people were grateful for and how this 12 steps, this book, this sharing at meetings, this getting a sponsor would help me in any way. Um, I didn't hear a lot at the start of it talks here about having this message of depth and weight, and I didn't hear a lot of that. I have a mind that I'm relying on to keep me alive that's actually killing me when I get here and I don't know it. And I would go into the rooms and I would just compare. I thought it was about how much I lost or what I had done or what I had drank, and it was none of that. I come to find out, and that was my experience. And what did happen at the end, was that when I eventually got back to the rooms by this power greater than myself, that, it had no idea I was coming in here to have a relationship with, had no idea was keeping me alive, had no idea that such a thing could help me. Um, this power that brought me back, had me in the room one night when at my home group back in Ireland. I'm 6 months sober, and I'm dead inside. I'm really sick and I don't know it. And I love in the book it talks about this actor who leads a double life, and I was doing that in sobriety, very clearly young in sobriety, but I couldn't be honest. I did not know what it meant to be honest, um, and someone approached me that night, and what was really going on, but I wouldn't have told you, was how do I kill myself? This was going on for 2 weeks because I knew that alcohol, drugs, it stopped working for me. You know, to say that, oh, it just stopped working like that, it sounds kind of like, I don't know how it sounds. It was painful at the end, as we know. It didn't just stop working. It wasn't covering up the pain and the guilt and the shame, and I couldn't get drunk or couldn't get high at the end, and we find ourselves in that rock and the hard place, and that's where I was at the jumping off point. But sober, going to meetings, doing a lot of service, and wanting to kill myself. Because that's the kind of mind I have. That's my solution. The alcohol won't work, the drugs won't work. So you know what? I'm just going to end it. Like that, that is the thing I'm working with when I get here. And so I needed help, and I did not know how sick I was, and someone approached me, like I said, and they had a message of depth and weight. And they knew what it was to be alcoholic. They were grounded in this higher power, this God of their understanding. I wouldn't have known the words at the time, but there was something different. I always refer to like when Abby comes to Bill's house, and there's something about him, fresh skin and glowing. And there was something about this person that was completely different to the people that I was surrounded by. And this person brought me to my sponsor, who brought me to the power of my non-understanding. And I'm not bashing meetings. I really, really love meetings, and I believe it's our job when we get here, is to put our hand in the hand of that person that is grounded in their ideal, that's going to walk with us to this power, and put our hand in the power of this understanding or non-understanding. So I just wanted to get that out of the way, because I absolutely love meetings. So again, w this person that approached me, and I say approached me because it's so, so vital, that's my job today. When I'm at a meeting, is I go there to help. I'm going there to approach someone. I'm going there to see who needs help. Um, that I have to have a message. I know what it's like. I've been where you've been. I know how to get out. This is what I've done. And the sponsor that I got at that time, I sat down, and I remember sitting across from her, and there was something about her too, she was grounded in her ideal, her higher power. And, this kind of like, it's like, it's like a sobriety glow. When I get here, I know what I have, and it's resentment, it's anger, it's guilt, it's shame, it's self-hatred. And I'm looking at someone that's free. I don't know that, but there's something different about them. And they're talking to me, and they're telling me that, oh, yeah, I have that issue too. These things I wasn't going to tell people. It was just the alcohol. It's just the alcohol, just some drugs sometimes, but none of these other things that I'm doing. And how they're like, yeah, I had that too. I did that. And this is what I did. I applied the 12 steps. I read this book and I sat down with my sponsor and I'm going, this is this is corny. You know, how does this all happen? And today I know it's divinely orchestrated, you know, because there's no other reason for that, I believe. So it talks to us about how that we're going to recreate our lives. And you know, I know Howard talks about this and he gets to say like how when we change, we get to live two lives in one. And that has been my experience. And provided that I do this work, provided that I follow the instructions in this book, provided that I have this relationship on a daily basis with this power, I get to live two lives in one. I get to have a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps. I get to help others. I get to be that person that approaches someone and has depth and weight, has experience and has a message. Because like I said, the frothy emotional appeal is it doesn't suffice. And I love these three words because I think of like, I don't know if you guys like Coca-Cola or like a cappuccino, like the foam on top of that doesn't stay when I take the drink. It vanishes. So there's no depth and weight to that. But that being the people that were trying to help me around me, it just didn't work. But that recovered alcoholic, the person that there was something about that I just talked about, that had a message, that had experience, that was grounded in this paragraph of themselves, that had a different life, you know, like the people you meet, and you're like, I get it. Like I understand how you did that in your past life, but I really can't understand it. Like I can't play it out that you did that. And that's what I'm talking about, a complete 180, um, 360, if you want to call it, um, change. And that was what won me over. Um, and nobody, no doctor, no sister, no boyfriend, no nothing, had that depth and weight, only another alcoholic. And this paragraph about you know, Dr. Silkworth is telling us how you think it may be kind of, I don't know what the word is, um sentimental he uses. He's saying this to the other medical profession. And it's like, well, come and see it. Stand on the front lines. Stand here and see what's happening to these people and their family. And it just makes me I get very emotional because it makes me really sad because I know this is a killer disease and I've watched people go out of these rooms. You know, we've got that phone call. I it's just treacherous, like, and it's treacherous for the people around us. So it's no wonder that he is saying um we find nothing better than this movement, than these people, than Alcoholics Anonymous. Nothing else has worked. And you know, again, like when I got here, I didn't think that was going to be the case. Like everyone was grateful, and I was just like, I don't know what you're grateful about. Like I was so obnoxious, and I was so self-centered, and yeah, today it's different, and I'm so grateful that I had someone approach me that had a message of depth and weight, and like it wasn't a war story. It wasn't like, you know, I drank this amount and this is what happened and so on and so forth. Like that talked to me about the illness, that talked about I have, like it talks about in the previous paragraph, who your speaker probably was shared about last week, was that I have this allergy, which when activated is this phenomenon of craving. Like that's what I'm needing to be, that's what I need my sponsor, that's what I need the person approaching me to talk to me about, the depth and weight of this medical diagnosis for this illness. It's not about how much I drank or where I drank or when I drank. Yes, that can be important one-on-one, but I need to be told that I have this. Do I have this? And not need to be told, just open the book and read it and say, is this me? When I drink, do I have this phenomenon of craving. And I remember coming in and thinking this was the biggest load of, like these people can't drink, like, because they're talking about the first drink gets you drunk. And I did not get it. So I thought it was about every time I'd go out, first of all, I thought I was making a choice and to pick up a drink. And second of all, I thought it was about control and manageability, the amount that I was going to drink. So I was like, I don't know what they're saying. You get drunk on the first drink. I didn't understand it. And today I can put it beside what is in this previous paragraph about the phenomenon of craving. Because the first one sets off the phenomenon. It's not explainable, but it is today. But I don't go into all of that. Howard is all those documents and information. It makes my hair crawl. I just know that when there's alcohol into my system, I'm looking for another. And what feels like a choice is not a choice. I had a real deep experience when I sat down with my sponsor with this, because no one had ever really sat down with me and talked about the physical allergy in my body. See, I thought it was all a thing of mental willpower, and I never knew that my body was different. My body is different than my sister's. My sister's 14 years, not 14, 14 months older than me. I had these friends that were drinking more than me. Um, and they're not alcoholic. And to be able to sit down and to be able to turn these statements into questions and having a real deep experience with this physical allergy, and to see that every time that I sat down, I was a bartender, and at the end of work I would sit down and order a drink, that I ordered the drink and I would drink it, and I thought I was the person ordering the second and the third and so on and so forth. But after I ordered the first, with this experience that I was having with the book, I could see that that wasn't me making a choice to order more. That was the phenomenon of craving, because my body needed it, just like when I'm dehydrated and I need water. Just what like when I'm hungry, I need food. Like, why could I not understand that I had this was the next thing was because it was so normal. I had it and it didn't make sense that I didn't have it. And that's a kind of strange way of putting it, but that's why to me it was so much of a phenomenon. And all I could see was that all I wanted was more. And I could use this an analogy, like when I talk about my sister, how that never happens with her. Like, she has a drink, she sets it down. She used to do cocaine. She could stop all that because she met her husband. But she would have a drink and she would sit down and she would eat dinner with us, and she leaves it at the sink at the end of the night. She didn't even finish the drink. Now, for someone with the phenomenon of craving, I can't do that. I am glued to the glass. I am glued to the bottle. I'm in the liquor store. Like, party on. Like, it doesn't really matter who's around me or who's not. I need the next drink. And she doesn't have that. And that was just mind-boggling, mind-blowing, that my body is different, that she does not get the phenomenon of craving. Even though she might get drunk, she doesn't get the phenomenon of craving. And it was also explained to me about how, if I'm thirsty, I don't drink a bottle of water and keep drinking a bottle of water and go in, and then, when my thirst is quenched, maybe I feel sick from drinking all this water, I throw up, I come out and I keep drinking water, and I don't have that with with water, right? So there's some phenomenon of craving inside of me, and what it is, it's more. Um, and you know, I love the paragraph. I love every paragraph. There's no point in me saying I love the one before it and I love the one I just was reading. I love them all, the one I have today, because I remember reading this, that once having formed the habit, they found they cannot break it. I was like, This is a habit? A habit?" And today we know, like, there's all these self-help books and you can break a habit in 20 days, 30 days. And it was pointed out to me, Kathy, it says found they cannot break it. They cannot break it. Is this you? And I'm like, yeah, call it a habit, call it a whatever you want to call it, but I can't stop doing it. Um, and I don't have self-confidence. It talks about their self-confidence. And I relied on people. I really relied on human aid. And that only lasted for so long. And then this unmanageability, how their problems pile up and then become astonishingly difficult to solve. And that was just my life living in this unmanageability. Most of it internally, because the internal manageability would would pop up a good idea in my mind that, you know what, I'll be able to have two tonight, or I'll be able to do a line just, I'll just not do any more than three. And I'll not buy it, I'll just use his. And all of this nonsense. But it was because I was so uncomfortable in myself. And I had never, ever, until I got to the rooms, met people like me who knew who knew what the problem was and what the solution was and how to apply it, who had a message of depth and weight, and who were transformed on the inside. And it was very, very clear to see. I had never ever, you know, had that. It was I never had experience with that. And this movement, I love the way it talks about this selfless movement now growing up among them. Like how much has that grown today? Like we had like A, we have C, there's like 300 and something fellowships. Talk a little bit about the spiritual malady per se, because this is really for me um, the root of it all, and myself is the root of my troubles. And wow, when I got here, I didn't think that was the case. I just thought it was the drink and the drugs, and even at that, it took me 4 years to see that when I tried to stop, I just couldn't. Like I thought I could just stop when I wanted. Like I thought I had a choice and I couldn't. And I'm drinking against my will. And I never liked the taste of alcohol until I liked it. I didn't like some of the things I took, but I liked what they did for me. And I see today, and I know today that I had a treat, that inner disturbance, that restlessness, that irritability, and that discontent with something from a very, very young age. And I'm sure a lot of you guys identify with this. Like from the age of 5, my first day of school, I walked in with my dad and I was terrified. I stood by his leg. I wouldn't let go of him. And I could have did with a shot of whiskey. I really could have did with a shot of whiskey. Um, and that's pretty much who I was. I was always anxious, always introverted, always shy, always had to play alone, but always wanting to be a part of, always wanting what you had and not seeing what I have. Um, Very, very awkward. And at the age of 12, I picked up a drink, and I really like to emphasize this to say that you can see where I have been so uncomfortable for all those younger years of my life, not knowing that until I come in here, that at the age of 12, when I pick up a drink, everything inside of me changes. Everything inside of me. I mean, my whole perception on life changed. My mom had left. My parents, I grew up in a house of chaos. That doesn't make me alcoholic. Um, um, it was just such a bleak time in my life. And when I picked up that drink, like I said, everything changed in me. I felt like I could talk to boys. There was boys there. It was a family party. I felt like I was normal. I didn't feel like a weirdo. I felt like I could, you know, socialize with people. Now I tell you this now, but at the time I didn't have those words for it. But what changed was my perception of life. I was no longer interested in school, was no longer interested in getting grades, no longer interested in go to college, no longer interested in having some kind of potential in my life. It was all about how can I get the drink? How can I get out? How can I get what I want? How can I get the money? How can I get the status? Like everything changed. And you know, I thank I thank the substances because I really was someone that younger that had a lot of suicide ideology, but you wouldn't say that. Um, I never told that to anyone growing up. And like when I came to the rooms and I heard things like that and I was sold. I'm like, you guys are my people. But the point I'm trying to say is alcohol kept me alive. Drugs kept me alive. Like it is absolute torture being in myself. And like I'm not advocating for substance. I'm just saying what it did for me. Um, until it was what it was doing to me. And at the end, like I mentioned, it was, I was on the stage of drinking to oblivion. I could not see any reality. I could not face anything. I just had to work to drink to work. And that's what I did for a very, very long time. Probably my last run was about a year. Um, and that moment of clarity where it's like I can't stop myself from starting and I can't stop, period, and I can't get back to the rooms and I really actually want it. And that was just terribly, terribly frightening. But I am so grateful, y'all, for that because, nobody, I'd left coming to the fellowships and no one had tried to you know, rope me in or persuade me, come back, come back, come back. They just let me have that experience, let me be licked with dignity and grace. Without it, I didn't have much of it, but they loved me that not that much to let me go and have that experience. Nobody could have given me that. No platitude, no person, no meaning. I had to be beat into a state of reasonableness. Um, And like I mentioned, I came home to Ireland and I do want to talk about the solution a little bit more. Um and we didn't really have a lot of people talking about the big book. And since I had been introduced to it and been introduced to sponsors in the United States, I knew that was a thing, but I just didn't see a lot of big books around. Nor was I wasn't jumping for joy to try to find someone or anything like that because the pain wasn't bad enough. I like the until it was bad enough. But I suppose what I'm trying to say is those 6 months, those teetering around, those going to a lot of meetings, um, those old timers listening to their one-liners. What happened for me was it brought a new sense of like, this is the new normal. Like I'll accept the new normal being miserable and I'm not drinking until I can't accept it anymore, which is like, how do I take my own life and where do I do that? To a different level, a different, level of pain. And it's always pain. It's never by virtue. It's never a good idea to change. It's never, that's just the way I'm wired. It's the nature of the beast. My butt got to be on the line and my heart better be ready to stop. That's when I'm ready to, do something. Because it was always like when I get jammed up or lose something on the outside, more importantly, I was losing what I had on the inside. It was always like, is it really that bad? I still got the apartment, I still got the job I can't show up on time for, the job I can't even work at and I'm stealing from. Like, but is it that bad? And thankfully I got back by the grace of this power alive, alive, right? And but when I sat down and I read this book with my first sponsor and it talked of a message of depth and weight, I was completely sold. And I always share this that the first day I met her and we read the start of the book and it talks about how the first promise, how many thousands of men and women have recovered from alcoholism, everything inside of me, my whole internal system changed. I mean, nothing like there was no white light or anything, but everything in me changed to maybe this can work for me. Maybe I can get what these people have because I was just constant meeting maker and got, meetings for my higher power. I didn't have a solution. I didn't have a sufficient um solution, like I was talking about a minute ago. Like I'm either going to treat my spirit with that spirit, the chemical, alcohol or drugs, or I'm going to treat it with this infinite spirit, this, you know, spirit of the universe, God, my creator. I have two options. And and so what was I going to say? Yes, everything in me, that's where I was. Changed just like that day when I picked up that drink when I was a 12-year-old. My whole perception changed. I got hope. I didn't know it was hope at the time, because I wasn't like hearing a message of depth and weight in the rooms. And that's not their fault. That's just the way it was. And I didn't have someone that sat across from me and had this glow in their eye and this freedom until I did and had this, I did what you did and this is how I got out. Um, and I think of how many people we pay and how many people we see to give me, I'll speak for myself, to give me what I think is wrong with me or something other than alcoholism. I can't have alcoholism. There's absolutely no way. Like that's how I was, and then last house on the block, here I am by the grace of God. And and you know, we started in on this book and to see that I mentioned it, I started talking about it there, the phenomenon of a craving, but more important is the mental obsession. Every time for 4 years, I tried to stay sober with all good intention, all good promises. But the insanity of the first drink would always lead me back because uh I'm having a blank. What's the word I'm looking for? Because I have an alcoholic mind and it's untreated. Like if I think about it and I want to apply logic to it, if I'm an alcoholic and I don't treat my mind in another way, a spiritual solution, what is the equation equals drinking? That's just the way it is. I'm an alcoholic. So it's a pretty damn miracle that we're all here, sober and clean. Like, think about it. Like, we are not dead. We were probably brought to the gates of insanity. We're here. We're alive. There's a job for us to do, lads. Um, you know, um, yes, the mental obsession and I can't rely on my mind, this thing that I was relying on to make decisions, to support me. This thing is killing me. And it's killing me right now. I see in the form of I want to die or I want to have a drink, and but to see that my mind can be changed, not by me, but by treating this larger part of my problem, which is this inability, the unmanageability, I was going to say the inability to stay stopped, right? To handle sobriety. I can't handle sobriety. You know what I mean? It's like we hear in the rooms and don't take this the wrong way. I just interpret it this way, but people say I live life in life's terms. I'm like, yo, I can't do that. I don't know what like that is painful. I gotta live life on God's terms. I can't live life on life's terms. Life sucks. If I'm living in a third dimension or two dimension, it sucks. Um, so I have to get reorganized on the inside and I can't do that on my own. And I see that these bedevilments are just wrapped around my neck and they're strangling me. And I know a speaker talks about this and I love it. So kudos to them. Um, is the spiritual malady the, is like the leaves blowing sorry, the spiritual malady is like the wind, but you just see the leaves blowing. And like how true that is, you just see the manifestations. I don't see it when it's on me. You know what I mean? When it's on me. And I'm always the last to find out. So, there's no way I can absolutely work step one perfectly because that would mean that I'd have to, be able to, not have any bedevilment any day of the week or any hour of the week. And I don't live in the bedevilments. But I've had days where I'm like, it's them. It's them. And then I'm like, oh, two people are annoying you, Kathy. You're starting to have trouble with people. It's not them. You know how quickly I am to forget that I have things called character defects. That's why I have a 10 step. Um, and but I got to see that I have a huge problem. I am powerless and I will drink. That's the promise. I'm gonna drink. I'm gonna use. And in my case, at that time, it was like, I'm gonna take my life. And I hear things in the room like that's so selfish and everything. And like, fine, that's just how people feel. I'm not here to debate, but like the way I like to look at it, like the when we drank, when we used, when we had those things was it makes sense. If we're in pain, we're going to do those things. So I can't judge, you know. But I had to look at what was the solution. I had to look at was I willing to believe um, in a power greater than myself? Was I willing to believe in something bigger than this obsession to kill myself or to use or to act out? Is there something? And I couldn't deny the power of this power in you guys' lives. I sat across from my sponsor and she was glowing and she had said I'd been there. I did that. She was, grounded in her ideal, and there was no way I could say no to that. Even when I was, so agnostically inclined, which today I still have agnosticism. I think a lot of us do. But when I came in, it was like, oh, I don't know. I really don't know. And I'm like, I prayed to this thing when I was hungover and didn't want to leave my job, but now I don't know. But I couldn't deny that it was in you guys. You know what I mean? I couldn't deny that. And I said I do. And all for me at the start was this is power because I'm still a woman of logic and that's fine. But I was like, well, if I'm powerless, I need power. I'm a big doo-doo. But it was a wonderful experience to have in sobriety, to have a step one experience, as with the experience out there clearly. Because what happened for me when in that kind of second surrender, when I was sober and desperate and living in bedevilments, was I will do absolutely anything this book asks me to do. Whatever you want me to do, I will do. And I really didn't balk, and I know that's not everyone's story. Um, yeah. And then to see, that I'm this actress running the show. Everything would be fine if you acted the way I wanted you. If people did as I wanted them to do, if things were as I wanted them to be, then I'll be fine. If I can only be safe in this world, then I'll be fine. My life run by me is not a success. It's running downhill fast, and I'm hurting you in the meantime. And that's how I operate, Some days I show up and I'm kind and considerate. The next day I'm like, gosh, that didn't work. It didn't get what I wanted, or what I wanted was not really what I wanted. So maybe I got to be a bully the next day. Those are all of my little tools in my self-will kit. And when I read that in the book, I remember thinking, I relate to this more than the drinking, because this is how I grew up. I always had to manipulate. I always had to find a way to get by, to get what I wanted. And it was all about me. It was all about me and it was all for me. And when tells us in the book, like selfish and self-centered is the root of my troubles. Wow. I remember listening to a speaker about this, like when I first got sober, and this helped me so much. And it also was bittersweet, that page, that it's on, because I'm not good at page numbers, but It's on page 62. Is a real bittersweet page, right? Um, that's the root of my troubles. So if I think of a big oak tree, and this is the way the person described it on the tape, you see the bark of the tree, but you can't see the roots under the ground. And that's exactly what it's like for me when I get to Alcoholics Anonymous. And to this day, except I'm a little bit more seeing it. Doesn't mean I see it all. Um, that I can't even see that it's my selfishness. I can't see these manifestation like the selfishness is what's going to feed these branches, the manifestations, which is the self-pity, the self-seeker, and 100 forms of fear, the self-delusion. I don't see it. I don't even know what you're talking about, but that's the bitter part of it. But the sweet part is it goes on to tell us that we think our troubles are basically of our own make and they arise out of ourselves. And where it talks about our extreme example of self-will run riot. And it goes on to say we must be rid of it, but we can't do it our own, but God can. So the key to my future, I didn't know it at the time, was in my pocket, provided I kept turning these pages. But I was insulted, and a lot of those pages beforehand had pulled the wool, pulled my covers about how, aren't I really a self-seeker even when I try to be kind? I'm like, oh man, I was a martyr. Like I suffered for them. And like, oh, I had motives, like motives not good for me. Um, and how I made decisions based on what I wanted, what was in it for me, what I thought, how I felt, and put me in a position to be hurt. Walk the dog back, Kathy. Where did you set the ball rolling? And oh my gosh. Um, but the great thing is I get a chance, to make the change, which is going to be this change and make this decision, which is going to, from this moment, affect the rest of my life. The most important decision I'll probably make in my life. And I've went through the steps a couple of times since that. But at that first time that I went through it, it was clearly just, okay, I'll do this. And I was writing inventory. Thank you, Everly. Um, and that's how it was. And today I know there's a lot more to it than that for me. It's to see that my life runs self will is it a success? It's absolutely nothing. To see that above everything, my husband, my dog, my job, my mother, everything. I gotta be rid of this because it will kill me. And it never looks like here's a drink it, Kathy. It looks like, can you believe my husband didn't support me? Can you believe the next door neighbor shunned me? Can you believe that person pulled into the that I'm driving in? And sooner or later, it's in my hands, because I need ease and comfort. And so then I got, launched into this fourth step. I was told that that is going to be the start of the rest of my life. And I did not know what it meant. And I was kind of scared because I heard things in the rooms, but it talks about a fearless moral inventory. I'm just getting down to the truth that's already inside of me, except I'm not looking at it. It's buried, right? These things that I heard someone say that I am not, with God, I am not these things in that fourth column. But to look at my resentments, my fears, and my sex conduct, and to see that the world doesn't evolve around me, to see how I hurt you, to see how my defects of character are running the show and I'm just going to meetings, to see that how some of them protected me and served me, but they're no longer doing that. To see that I actually wanted to keep some of them the first time and what I had to do in step 6 to move forward. To see that my life being run by me and on self-reliance is what the problem is, and that I'm the problem and relying on me. I'm not a good God. Like I'm just not. And to see that, relationships, like I laugh, but this was the way my brain thought when I would be in a relationship, was like, what's in it for me? What do I get? What are you doing for me? Like I thought I actually thought that's the way people live their life in relationships. And I come to find out that's not how I live in a relationship. It's about what can I bring to this relationship? How do I show up with God's help, with that sex and seeing and sound sex ideal, with God's help to be a different person every single day? You know, I had to make amends to Howard yesterday. Like, this is real stuff here, you know what I mean? And it's like, I'll never be devoid of self, I believe, until I'm 6 feet under. You know, it's just the nature of the beast. But I have a solution today. I know how to apply the program. I have a sufficient solution. I'm not drinking. I apply these principles and to go on and share all of this stuff in my fourth step and to be humbled. I remember saying to my sponsor, I feel kind of sad. And she's like, you are being humbled. And I was like, oh, okay. You see, it's not even that I know that I'm not selfish. I can't see it until I do inventory. I can't see it. I'm almost frozen. I'm almost numb to what I'm doing in my life. Um, and in my fifth step, to sit across from this woman that I told you about who had this message of depth and weight and who's grounded in her ideal and it told me I'd been through that and I've came out this way and this is my life today. To sit across from her and tell her all these things that was wrote on my page and for her to nod her head, for her to come over and sit beside me and put her arm around me in a cafe. I was like, this is a bit too close. Um, but when I did that step, I you guys know what that step's like. For me, it's one of my most favorite steps is because I was now in harmony in 3 dimensions with you, the physical, my sponsor, with God, who's the spiritual, and with myself, my head, 4 through 7, and the home I live in 3 dimensions for the first time in my life. I'm feeling right. I'm feeling okay. The guilt and the shame's just gone. And even better when we get to take someone through it and we get to sit and hear it. It's an absolute honor. I'm going to end now because my time's going to. I'm like, yo, this is why I did all these things and God kept me alive and brought me here because I get to help you. That is so awesome. This is this spiritual currency, you can't miss it. It's just unbelievable. I just get goosebumps. I get God bumps. And that's all I have today. Thank you for having me. Yeah, thanks, guys.